So, what do Bryson Dechambeau and the great Ben Hogan have in common? Let's find out. Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to Golf Test Dummy, the channel where I use my game to help your game. Hopefully, by the end of this video, I will have given you 3 ways in which I can compare Bryson Dechambeau to Ben Hogan and show the link between them and blow your mind. Here we go. We've all seen that Bryson has bulked up and put on a ton of muscle, and now he's coming out and he's just ripping drives down the fairway, and his irons are just going crazy lengths, and he's just blowing everything up. With the Bryson blow up, there has been basically a division that has fallen down between people who keep up with the golfing world, golf fans if you want to call it that. There's this split right down the middle. And that split is so polarizing that you either love Bryson and you think what he's doing for the game is fantastic, or you can't stand him and all you've got is venom to spit at him. It's a disgrace, right? Essentially, if you look at it, what he's doing is he's taking our normal golf game that we're used to seeing on TV every Saturday and Sunday, and then all of a sudden, here comes Bryson. He's like a giant monster truck just plowing down through the fairways. And it's like combining pro wrestling with pro golf. And so a lot of people don't like that. Some people love it, some people hate it. But for the people that don't like it, I'm going to try and convince you that one of the most classic players, the greats of all time, Ben Hogan, has a lot in common with Bryson Dechambeau. Alright, so everybody knows that Bryson has been hitting the ball a country mile. Most people overlook one of the big keys to his recent success. Today I want to try and explain a little bit about my understanding of just how he's going about doing what he's doing. End range of motion, or as I'm calling it now, ERM. What is end range of motion? Has anybody heard of this? It's nothing new, but it is coming to light now, and that is due in no small part to the efforts of Bryson Dechambeau, the golfing scientist. So what is ERM? What is end range of motion? How does it work? And how does Bryson apply it to his golf swing in order to gain all this distance and accuracy and consistency? An easy way to explain it is like this. Take your right arm, stick it out like you're going to shake my hand. Hello, how are you? Now, turn everything, the arm, the forearm, and the wrist joint, all 3 of those joints, as completely inward as possible. I've turned my wrist as far as it'll go. I've turned my radius and ulna in my forearm as far as they will go. I've turned my humerus or my upper arm as far as it will go. Now, flip it. And you end up palm up with your wrist pretty much turned as far as it'll go, outwardly. The radius and ulna have now reversed. They're going the opposite way. Elbow pit facing to the sky. Humerus bone rotated outward as much as possible. That full range of motion is what most people have between all of these joints running down their arm. In range of motion, ND, is when you hit those limits, here or here, when you have rotated and hit the end of your range of motion. This is where Bryson lives. If you set up neutral, meaning that you're living in the middle, between the 2 extremes, it leaves a lot of things open to variation. Bryson does not like variables. As with any science experiment, the more control items you have versus how many variable items you have, the more likely you are to predict the outcome of the experiment. He actually credits looking at Jordan Spieth's chicken wing for giving him the inspiration for the idea. A lot of us set up to the golf ball kind of like this. Let's just look at a pretty neutral setup. My grip is pretty neutral. My elbow pit and my elbow, they're kind of making a line going back on a 45. If you could draw a line through the elbow and the elbow pit, shooting straight out like laser beams, they would kind of be crossing out in front of you because they run on a 45-degree angle. The problem with that is, from Bryson's point of view, is that when you come down into impact or you take the club away or any position in the swing, there's still all this range of motion that could potentially happen throughout the swing, especially at impact, which, as we all know, is the most important thing in the golf swing, impact. So to try and eliminate a lot of the 2-way misses, which is just a death knell for a lot of golfers, he says, let me go ahead and hit my end range of motion with my left arm. I want to keep it straight, and I want to keep the elbow facing the target for as long as possible. He's got this rotated inward as much as it will go, internal rotation, but then he rotates his wrist external, outward, away from his chest as much as possible. so that it is very much like a handshake. And if he can maintain that through impact, see that lag it helps to create? What this does for him is it eliminates that big hook. He was in the 4th round of a tournament, and he noticed that he was getting these big, giant hooks. And he had been having a good day, and everything had been going his way, but he started getting the big, giant hooks, and he decided right then and there, that's it. I'm not going to live in the middle anymore. I'm going to pick a side. Now with me, what I've been experimenting with is turning the elbow out, but keeping kind of a strong grip on the club, because for me, I have a flip. I tend to flip at impact. If I turn my elbow facing the target, rotate the humerus all the way in, and then I turn my wrist all the way out, I can still flip backwards. So I want to eliminate that by putting my palm sort of down so that that flip is either lessened or it can't occur at all. So in setup, it goes something like this. Elbow in, strong grip, grip the club, set up. Maybe not my best swing in the world, but I'm still working with it, right? Give me a break. It's just like Mr. Miyagi said in The Karate Kid. Walk left side, safe. Walk right side, safe. Walk middle, sooner or later, just like great. That's what Bryson's trying to avoid, is walking in the middle of the road. Now I know what you're saying. You're going to make all the Masters jokes. Oh, it's a par 76, huh? You know how difficult Augusta is? When's the last time you played there? How well did you do? All right, and now for what we've been waiting on. The 3 ways that Ben Hogan and Bryson Dechambeau are connected and linked together in some way, shape, or form. Number 1, this is an easy one. You may or may not have noticed Bryson's signature hat. Looks a lot like the one Ben Hogan wore, right? Ben Hogan is one of Bryson's idols. He's one of his heroes. And when he was 13 years old, he was in a pro shop. He saw that hat, he picked it up, and he's worn that type of cap ever since. He loves Ben Hogan so much, in fact, one of his hobbies is stippling, the art of drawing pictures using only dots. And in his parents' home is a picture of the 1-iron at Marion shot that Hogan made in 1951, where Bryson stippled that picture. They framed it. It's hanging up in their house. So there's number 1. Number 2, both Bryson and Hogan had trouble with the giant duck hooks. Ben Hogan fought it for a long time, and Bryson had his struggles with it as well. It's one of the reasons that Hogan and Bryson both chose to do what they did with their swings in order to eliminate the left-hand side of the golf course. Now, the 3rd way is not so apparent, but let me explain. Bryson's way to cure those hooks was to employ ERM, in range of motion. He did so by turning his elbow as internally as he could. His humerus bone turned internally as much as possible, so that if he held that, it would not allow his left arm to fold and turn over too early. If he held it through impact, he knew that he was not going to turn the hands over. He had to use body rotation to get through it in order to fire it at the target, and he ended up playing more of a baby draw to a fade. Ben Hogan employed very, very much the same technique, only maybe he didn't even know he was applying in range of motion. It may have been something he stumbled on, but both Bryson and Hogan used in range of motion as a way to force their body and their swing to comply with what they wanted to do. So as Bryson has his elbow turned outward and his humerus rotated inward as much as possible, classic Ben Hogan, elbow pits out and elbows connected to the hips. Matter of fact, there is a video where Ben Hogan was on a TV show and he was trying to explain the golf swing in the most simplest form possible, in which he said, keep your elbows at your side. He had a really weak grip, and his elbow pits faced out as much as possible, where his elbows were tucked into his sides and his hips, and his elbows were facing this way. And then his swing, he said, was just to kind of go back and forth like this at first, keeping the arms at your side, and then start to get wider, hitting the in range of motion with his humeruses rotated as far as they could externally, which is the exact opposite of the way that Bryson moves his left arm, but it's still the same thing. You're hitting the in range of your motion. Hogan used it to fight a hook. Dechambeau uses his to fight a hook. They just use opposite ends of that range of motion. Let's see if I can swing one like Ben. Okay, well, maybe I don't look exactly like Ben Hogan, but that's the principles he used. Just like that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button down below. Give me some love. Leave me some comments. What do you think? Hogan and Dechambeau? Okay. Well, maybe they're not that close, but they do share some commonalities. Appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next video.